Who are some of the scammers who should have gotten away? Let's get right into it and start with number 5, not a routine. Plattini Stalone de la Torre Cordoso was an expert at forging identity documents and using them to scam unsuspecting victims. Unfortunately for him, the authorities were also experts at catching criminals, and Plattini soon found himself in police custody. Plattini was going about his jolly day when he encountered officers conducting a random stop and search operation. At the time, he had 2 forged Portuguese ID cards and 2 forged Portuguese driving licenses in his possession. This piqued the officers' interest, and they conducted a larger search of his home. Police found equipment for making forged passports, identity cards, and national insurance cards. The investigation discovered bank accounts that were set up using the forged documents and were intended to be sold on as a package. Police also found controlled and contraband substances in his room. The final nail in the coffin for Plattini Stalone de la Torre Cordoso was the stash of pictures of him found in his house. In those pictures, he was flaunting the cash he'd gotten from his criminal enterprise. It's always a great idea to take pictures of illegal things you do. In court, the lawyers argued that Plattini posting those pictures was a result of his total disregard for the law. The judge eventually sentenced Plattini to 4 years. However, before sending Plattini on his merry way to prison, the judge spoke about the harm he'd caused. He said Plattini's actions could help international criminals and terrorists achieve their aims, and that Plattini was a resource for all manner of criminals. In the end, judgment was passed, and Plattini Stalone de la Torre Cordoso went to jail. Maybe next time Plattini won't walk around in public with things that can get him arrested and sent to prison. Number 4, a giant MAGA scam. Edawn Louis Cougham trashed his pizza and ice cream shop to make a racially motivated burglary to file an insurance claim. The suspect, Edawn Louis Cougham, is a former NFL player who played for several NFL teams from 2012 to 2016. The police were notified of the incident when a 911 distress call came in at around 9:30 p.m. The caller reported that the man trashing the pizza shop drove a black Chevrolet Silverado that didn't have a license plate. Later that night, police officers stopped the truck matching that description leaving the area and found televisions attached to damaged drywalls in the back of the truck. They also discovered that the driver of the truck was none other than Edawn Louis himself. After further investigation, the police discovered that the pizza shop had been vandalized. There were swastikas on the door, racial slurs sprayed in wet, fresh paint, and someone had even written MAGA on the wall. The video surveillance system was destroyed, the booth cushions were sliced open, wires were cut, and the mirrors were broken. It reminds us of that time we got a cat for Christmas. Don't ask. At first sight, it looked like your classic hate crime, but officials knew that something wasn't quite right. When asked about what happened, Kaufman coughed out a response that the police didn't take seriously. He claimed that he noticed the damage and the theft earlier in the day, but had called his insurance company instead of the police. The police, however, could smell what Kaufman was cooking, and it smelled like BS. So the police decided to arrest Kaufman. Once he was in custody, police secured a warrant to search his vehicle, and what they found confirmed their suspicions. For some reason, Kaufman was in possession of a yellow crowbar and cans of spray paint. Kaufman had also found himself in possession of likely tools that had been used to trash the pizza shop. Some people may think that this was just a coincidence, but not the police. According to the police, the only reason they'd figured that Kaufman was behind the crime was because of the witness. If the witness hadn't seen Kaufman's car, it wouldn't have been flagged down. And if it had never been flagged down, Kaufman would have gotten away with the perfect crime. Unfortunately for Kaufman, his plan came with some hiccups, and he was caught. Kaufman's lawyer wanted to remind everyone that he should be presumed innocent and that we shouldn't prejudge without knowing all the facts. Who doesn't drive around with crowbars, spray paint, and TVs that have clearly been ripped off the wall? This sounds like an episode of Reno 911. Number 3, Scamma Go Round. Cyber criminals who use hacking forums to purchase login details and software exploits keep falling for scams themselves. These criminals often get duped on these forums, and they usually have no recourse after getting scammed. We all feel bad for them. These hacker forums are like marketplaces where scammers of all kinds gather to do business. They advertise what goods they have to sell and can even advertise for the services of specialists in certain criminal endeavors. These forums are usually hotspots for fraudsters who want to purchase databases of stolen passwords and credit card information. However, these business dealings don't always go according to plan. The evidence for this extraordinary phenomenon of scammers scamming scammers comes from a study of 3 such hacking forums. The forums investigated were 2 Russian language forums, Exploit and XSS, and 1 English language forum, Beach Forum. The scams that happen on these forums take many different forms. Some are quite simple, while others can be rather sophisticated. One example is a rip and run scam. Rip and runs are scams where the seller of merchandise or a service receives payment but doesn't go through with the sale. It can be vice versa, as a buyer could receive the merchandise and refuse to send payment. Other types of tricks include selling merchandise that either doesn't work or is fake. One scammer on the forum claimed that another seller sold them Facebook data that was already in the public domain, which was probably more their fault that they didn't check ahead of time. Another example was a lengthy post by a scammer claiming that they'd provided a kernel exploit for someone on the forum, and the person had refused to pay the agreed $130,000. Another example, scammers get scammed by multiple accounts working together. An account with a good reputation may refer a victim to another account, and that account may perpetrate a scam on the unsuspecting scammer. One scammer wanted to buy a fake copy of the NFT game Axie Infinity. They wanted to purchase this fake game and include a backdoor to siphon off legitimate users' funds. Unfortunately for them, the person they bought the game from included a backdoor in the backdoor. Hence, the scammer was getting scammed by the game they bought to scam others. The most interesting scam investigators discovered was one surrounding the Genesis Marketplace. The Genesis Marketplace is an online forum for criminals to purchase things like hotel login details, email addresses, victims' names, and other personal details. This forum is quite popular and has been online since 2017. However, when researchers started researching the forum, they realized that there was a fake version of the site showing up on Google searches. The website was built on basic WordPress template and asked for money to grant access. The real Genesis website, on the other hand, was invite only. But that wasn't the only odd thing with this fake site. The site linked out to other cybercrime websites, and the Bitcoin address people could make payments to change after it was copied and pasted. It was also being advertised on Reddit. This told investigators that the operation was most likely carried out by a group of collaborators, and they were correct. Over the course of their investigations, they discovered 20 more fake sites like the Genesis site. Most of the sites were impersonating real scam forums and often requested new users to pay to join. Investigations revealed that the phenomenon of scammers scamming other scammers isn't rare at all. After all, there's no honor amongst cyber criminals, and it seems scammers don't have any sacred cow. They'll scam whoever, however, and whenever. It's generally difficult to feel sorry for these scammers who get defrauded on the forum. They're usually on the forum seeking ways to scam other people. So it's sweet karma, and they can get scammed in return. Another sweet irony is that the complaints of these scammers could lead investigators to identify them. When they complain about being scammed, they often have to present evidence and information, and this information could likely lead to their identification. So not only are scammers getting scammed wholesale, but they also can't complain too much if they want to keep their identities secret. It's the worst kind of trap to be in, and one can only be glad that scammers get into it. Number 2. Accounting never stops. In 2017, an official named Alan Boland at the Bank of Ireland noticed an odd pattern across certain accounts. Boland noticed the same spelling mistake across the 6 BOI accounts belonging to 3 different people. Boland decided to investigate further and discovered that the spelling mistake wasn't the only similarity. The banking calls of the 6 accounts sounded the same, and they had similar IP addresses. Boland informed the police, and further investigations began. After concluding investigations, the police, led by Detective Garda Alan McCarthy, McCarthy discovered what he described as an identity factory. McCarthy uncovered a scheme run by Keith Flynn and Lindsay Clark. At the time, the 6 original identities had already taken around £32,000 in loans. Police began to watch the couple and realized that they rented different apartments. They were both lawyers at the time and had unblemished records. Hence, the police wanted to be sure that they could both be linked to the fraudulent accounts. After watching the duo for a while, the police secured an arrest warrant and entered Flynn's apartment. They found scanners, phones, wigs, documents, and a safe. The key to the safe was handed over, and the police discovered that it contained £92,300 in cash, alongside 21 full Irish driving licenses with different names, 19 bank cards, and 16 credit union cards. Digital copies of 4 passports were also discovered, alongside 31 SIM cards and a shredder. Flynn and Lindsay ran the scam by opening a bank account, applying for a loan of about £10,000 to £12,000, and then draining the account of that loan. They would make about 2 or 3 payments, and then after that, the next repayment was missed, and the bank loan would be written off as a bad debt. There would be nothing to suggest that any fraud was going on. The accounts would simply be written off as bad debts. Banks have safeguards against this sort of thing, but Lindsay and Flynn produced documents of supremely high quality in opening the account. The criminal couple got fake IDs and combed the internet for people who looked like them to create their fake identities. For addresses, the couple identified homes that were on sale or empty and called their owner, pretending to be the former tenants. Then they asked the owners if any parcel had arrived recently for them. Their operation was so good that the police only caught them because of Boland's lucky discovery. Boland's legwork was the key ingredient that led to the couple getting caught. In total, the couple stole around £390,000 from the banks. However, there's still some confusion over how they spent it. Investigators say there's some speculation that the money was being sent overseas, but there's no evidence to corroborate it. Another theory is that they spent the money on living a luxury lifestyle, but there's very little evidence of that as well. While others believe that the money is likely being kept somewhere as a contingency. Both Lindsay and Flynn pled guilty to fraud charges immediately. Due to their immense cooperation, Flynn was jailed for only 4 years, and Lindsay only got 2 years for some reason. The court believed that Flynn was about twice as responsible as Lindsay for the same crime. Maybe he was trying to make up for the gender wage gap. In the event of a trial, Clark was facing 388 charges and Flynn 389. In any case, we doubt Lindsay and Flynn will be running any clear fraud scheme in prison. Or could they? Number 1. Unknown circumstances. Prince Sobiez Nestor made a name for himself as a rich billionaire who had an extravagant lifestyle and showed off his wealth. But he passed away in police custody after getting arrested because of one of his videos. From wads of cash to new luxury cars and exotic homes, Prince Nestor showed off everything he had. In a video he posted months before his death, the billionaire shared a close-up of a new luxury car, a stunning white Rolls-Royce Phantom 8 that undoubtedly cost nearly $500,000. The billionaire then revealed that he planned to buy the ride and take it back to Nigeria. Obiez went on to taunt the FBI and the EFCC, a Nigerian anti-graft agency that investigates all financial crimes. Naturally, his unexplainable wealth would grab their attention, but Prince Nestor wasn't too worried. He bragged that he wasn't bothered by any anti-graft agencies like the EFCC and FBI. Prince Nestor said if they questioned him, he would settle them, whatever that means. This was months before his mysterious death. On January 8th, 2021, he posted a brow-raising video of himself in his opulent Dubai home surrounded by an unbelievable amount of money. He made a show of counting and waving the wads of dollar bills around. He was probably just showing that he knows all of his numbers and can count. People brag about weird stuff these days. Unsurprisingly, the video garnered a lot of attention because people really like watching other people count stuff. But some of that attention was from people you don't really want to notice you. 4 days later, Prince Obiez posted his video. The police stormed into his house in Dubai and promptly arrested him. It all happened so fast, and in no time, Prince Nestor was completely isolated from his friends and family. They didn't even let him contact or speak to his lawyer. He was held in custody by the CID for interrogation. Prince Obiez's arrest shook the internet, but what happened just a few days later was more surprising. By the end of January 2021, Prince Obiez had passed away in police custody under mysterious circumstances. To this day, no one is still quite sure what happened to him. Click to watch one of these next videos. Let us know in the comments section what's the luckiest or unluckiest thing that ever happened to you.